When we think about popular music in West Africa, it really is a historical record of everything from colonial era all the way up to the 21st century. And so genres like highlife, juju, Afrobeat, no S, and Afrobeats with an S gives us a portrait of social change and social life in countries like Ghana and Nigeria. So Afrobeat, no S, is the invention of Fela Kuti. Fela, born in Nigeria to a wealthy family, was supposed to be a doctor and becomes a musician and has a pivotal time in the late 1960s, early 1970s in the United States, living in Los Angeles, where he, an already accomplished highlife musician who is used to playing the music of entertainment that is dance music. We can think of it as a type of big band music that is meant for an evening out on the town. You're going out, you want to enjoy, have good vibes. Highlife is what you're going to listen to if you're in West Africa. These large bands that resemble big bands from the United States because they're directly influenced by them. But when Fela comes to the U.S., he connects with a woman named Sandra Isidore who introduces him to the political writings of folks like Malcolm X and all of these other thinkers of the era, and he becomes inspired to reinvent his sound, to orient it towards the political, post-independence political climate in Nigeria. He ends up back in Nigeria recording songs like Gentleman, Zombie, Lady with his band Africa 70 that build in all of this political awakening commentary into the lyrics, but also he supercharges his sound with one of his main collaborators, drummer Tony Allen. And so the sound has a hot kind of feel to it, heavily groove-based, extended instrumental introductions, Fela moving between saxophone and keys and singing, elaborate stage setups, but the intention is really to address the difficulties in post-independence Nigeria. And importantly, he sings in English, but also Pidgin English, which is the local language, and Yoruba. So that tells us his audience for it is his fellow Nigerian community, even though the music becomes globally popular. The jazz relationship with the music of Fela and Afrobeat, no S, is a rich one. And first, you have to look again to his drummer, Tony Allen. Tony Allen obsessed as a young drummer over the records of Art Blakey, Max Roach, studying and designing his style of playing off what those pivotal drummers were doing. He also was heavily inspired by a drummer out of Ghana named Guy Warren, who changed his name to Kofi Ganaba, who played in the United States with Dizzy Gillespie, with Thelonious Monk. Tony Allen is really pivotal for how he imagines the rhythm section, his drumming working as a key ingredient to Fela's sound, and jazz is woven throughout what he's doing. And later on in life, he would collaborate with master musicians like Hugh Masekela on records as well. And so you can't pull out the emphasis on instrumental improvisation out of what Fela is doing. You can't pull out the rhythms, even though the rhythm section is tremendously expanded in Fela's band. But also for American jazz musicians, around the same time and even earlier, they're also thinking a lot about Africa. You have Michael Babatunde Olatunji, who is also from Nigeria, who moves to the United States and collaborates again with musicians like Max Roach, Abbey Lincoln, and so many others. And so there's already been this back and forth about the relationship between jazz and traditional African musics and popular musics that we see come forward again in the sound of Fela. Afrobeat is really anchored in the 1970s and the 1980s. Fela passes away in the 1980s. And so the genre doesn't disappear, but its main figurehead is now gone and shifts how the genre is more largely perceived. But popular music in West Africa and Nigeria specifically does not stop. You have all kinds of experimentations with R&B, with hip hop that are burgeoning in especially the capital city of Lagos, Nigeria. And by the time you get to the early 2000s, again, there's this constant flow of people from Nigeria to the US, to the UK, and they start to note the influence of all these Black American genres But you can't dismiss the influence of the local in terms of language, in terms of percussion, in terms of the social events in which you hear these genres that are all bumping up against each other. And label executives and producers in the UK start referring to these different genres collectively as Afrobeats, plural, capitalizing cleverly on the aforementioned Afrobeat, no S, a little confusing, I know, but nodding to the plurality of sounds that young people are pioneering in Nigeria and in Ghana. And so you have artists like Tubaba and others who are getting out there and creating a sound that moves beyond Nigeria into Europe. And by the time you get into the late 20-teens and 2020s, you have a whole roster of Afrobeats artists, many of whom have already lived and spent extended time in college or school in the US, combining genres like R&B and hip hop to create their own unique style that we collectively refer to as Afrobeats. Highlife is a fundamental popular music genre in West Africa that originates in Ghana and Nigeria during the colonial era. And so it is this borrowing, again, reimagining, if you will, of a big band with an expanded percussion section, with local melodic material and lines and the vocal lines and some of the horn lines that sets it up for local context. And the audience for these are, you know, people who want to go out and have a lovely evening of music. But it's that model of highlife that comes out of genres like palm wine and other local genres that really sets the foundation for how the band is organized. And it's important to really understand, like, they're borrowing from what is happening in the United States, but also actively reinterpreting the music in successive ways of highlife artists to fit their both musical sensibilities and their political sensibilities. But highlife is a genre that sort of knits all of the genres that come after it together. So if you come to the concert, Big Band from Afrobeat, the Afrobeats, expect a really wonderful vibe. You're gonna dance a little bit, whether you get out of your seat or not, but imagine yourself in a warm place, close to the ocean, with a nice cold beverage, fresh fish, jollof rice, and late nights hangs. This is what this music is made for.